So, ROV team, I'll ask you this one. What would you say was your most challenging dive? What was it, environmental? Was it mechanical? What made it challenging? I mean, Danny, that story about the sea urchin, that sounds like that was pretty challenging. Does another one come to mind?
Yeah. So we were doing vertical wall transects. So basically, we were on the side of a sea mountain doing transects of coal on on a sheer wall,
Mm-hmm.
and we were fighting a lot of cross currents and overhangs and just some really tricky topography that we had to pilot through. And one of the big issues with these kind of vehicles is we're a two-part system. So we have this big cable going between the two vehicles. And when you're flying along a sheer cliff face, um, outcroppings, things like that, you could actually smash into with your other vehicle if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the most challenging dives that I think we've done, that I've been involved with.
What about you, Jake?
What was the question? I just
Oh,
came
my,
back in the seat.
no problem. My apologies. It's curious about difficult dives, whether it was weather, environmental. Is there one that sticks out in memory as being a real challenge?
Um, I I really enjoy actually all the ONC dives. They're all pretty operationally different, and so you have to think of a lot of things. With sometimes you have two cables in the water, and so you have to make sure you're not getting the ROVs tangled, and there's a lot of different steps to deployments, and just a lot to take into consideration at deep depths, and then also around really crazy like geological structures like the vents, and just really kind of fragile environment.
Yeah, the vents are going to be interesting for that. We don't want to bump into anything or accidentally knock anything down. Lynette, what makes nav difficult?
I think some of the most difficult conditions can be when we have a lot of weather at the surface, if we have a lot of wind and waves and swell. It can be more difficult to keep the ship in position, and of course the ROVs are tethered to the ship. So if the ship moves somewhere we don't want it to, the ROVs also move where we don't want them to. So that can be a challenge, and like Danny said, any sort of like really steep walls, sort of cliff faces, overhangs, things like that are very challenging. The vents are also very challenging because they are often very steep, very fragile, and very hot. So trying to keep everything a safe distance. We don't want to be crashing into anything. We don't want to be melting anything. All of those things can be pretty difficult.
It must be hard to remember that the water is all hot.
Yeah, I mean, we get good reminders when it really looks very shimmery and kind of boiling.
True. Will the ROV alert if it's going to be, does it have a temperature capacity where it kind of sends like, hey, I'm getting a little warm over here?
We do have a temperature probe on the vehicle, and we can use that to probe the vents themselves, but it's also a good atmospheric temperature, what the temperature of the water is directly in front of the vehicle. The CTD also tells us the temperature, but the probes are kind of a go-to, just to give us an idea of what the water temperature is.
I know that in some of the vents, there's actually creatures that have demonstrated kind of what is believed to be the upper limit of life for temperatures, like hanging out in 300-degree Fahrenheit water and, just living life as a invertebrate. So once the ROV gets back on deck, how do we start with first? What do we take off first and second and third? And what's the order of operations? Are we going to do the science samples first? Do we take the equipment off first? What do we do?
Samples first.
First, we strap it down and secure it.
Okay.
Then we have to turn on. We have to hook up hydraulics and electrical in order to open the boxes and get samples out, and basically hook the vehicle up on deck so that we can operate it on deck.
Cool. And then samples off, and then equipment off?
Yep.
And then readjustments. Cool. Is there a regular order of operations? Like if we don't bring anything back with us, or, you know, we go and have a dive, we look around, we see stuff, can we just kind of put it back in the shed and be done with it? Or is there,
we have a post-dive checklist that we go through, and we have a number of checks that we do on the vehicle. Similar to like taking your car to a maintenance shop every so often, but we do it after every dive.
Okay, cool.
It includes rinsing off the vehicle. We check oil levels. We check all the sensors on the vehicle, electrical connections, and then we run through, after our post-dive checks, we run through to prepare for the next dive, our pre-dive checks. And that includes turning everything on and checking, making sure everything's working as it's supposed to be.
Cool. Now, AJ, I see you're back, and some folks are wondering, does the cable efficiency vary based on water pressure? So if we put the cable down really deep, does it change how it behaves?
I'm probably not the best person to answer that, but my guess is no.
Yeah, they're pretty fortified. Like they've got a lot of stuff on the outside.
Yeah, and like the copper conductors that are going to carry the power are not very compressible.
Okay.
Even under extreme sort of seafloor pressure, and so you wouldn't see any sort of significant change in, you know, cross-sectional area.
Wouldn't see any distortion.
That would affect the comms. The fiber optic cables are, you know, glass tubes. They're incredibly strong. Again, I don't think they would see any, they don't mind the pressure. So it doesn't, I mean, as long as they're still functional, they're going to be as fast as always. So, yeah.
They don't like loops though, right? We want to keep them relatively straight.
Yeah, if there's a loop or anything like that, you can pull it tight and kink, and then if there's kind of a sharp bend, then of course, like you'll lose your efficiency on your transmission, or you'll lose transmission altogether.
Right. Jake, there's a question here. You mentioned Herc's oil. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we use a number of hydraulic systems on the ROV, including the manipulators and a lot of the things that move are connected to hydraulic actuators, and in order to move them, you have a hydraulic reservoir filled with oil that actuates an arm of sort that moves different components of the vehicle around. Yeah.
So good old hydraulics. Gotta love that.
Hydraulics also serve as a way to limit the amount of what atmospheric housings you have. So if you fill a housing with air, it's more likely to implode. But if you fill it with oil, oil is relatively incompressible, so it doesn't compress under at depth as much as air does. So it's less likely to implode. So you fill a lot of your electronic housings with oil, pressure tolerant electronics.
Thank you. I know that ONC has some as well. We, like you said, doesn't compress, and I believe we use mineral or vegetable oil as well to keep it from compressing and keeping the environment nice and healthy. Got some sharp-eyed folks asking about the types of jellies going by, and great place to look is online in our data log, and if someone knows what it is, they'll put it in there. And of course, once the data's kind of had a look over, a little quality control from Ocean Networks, some of the things that it'll go back and add are things like those names, common names, dinner plate jelly, and if we know it. And so a great place to look, again, is our archive, and you can also search in that. iNaturalist is another really great resource that you might want to check out when you're interested in what kind of species you might be looking at. I can't tell, I can't confirm if it was a dinner plate jelly or not because I didn't see it go by myself. Folks have got sharper eyes than I. So on station, we have a depth of about, or had a depth of about 2,000 meters. Depending exactly where we are, it could be 2,200, 2,300, depending. We're currently at about 800 meters because we're on our way back up to the surface. Got some samples on board, some equipment that's going to get swapped out. And then, as mentioned, we look at doing some autonomous deployments, get some instruments in the water. And of course, a great shout out to everyone and thanks for the questions that they're giving us. And if you're listening on YouTube or something like that, you can always head over to nautiluslive.org and you'll see that we have a question bar. You can type them in, and if we can, we'll answer them. And the expedition, of course, is slated to last about 3 weeks. So we'll be out here until near the end of June. So lots of opportunities to look for creatures, ask questions. It's got a great question here, and Ashley, maybe I'll send it in your direction in a moment here. Someone's asking favorite binomial name for anything, and I like that they gave the example. I'm probably going to butcher it, but I'm going to give it my best shot. And it's Catalapia big no-no-odes. Probably butchered it, but it's a tree, and the big nonoids. Nonoids. I think I'm going to go with nonoids for the second word. That does sound like a pretty good one, and I had to look up mine. I looked up mine, and my favorite is Phyromnia, and there's a bunch of amphipods in the Phyromnia family, but you can go onto the YouTube EV Nautilus, and if you put in the Phyromnia, you'll even get a video of this little creature. But I ask you, Ashley, with your background, what is your favorite?
I'm gonna have to think on that one too.
Yeah, I do admit I like the silly ones, like gorilla, or ornis orca. Those are good ones because I can remember them.
Can't say I have a favorite, but that first one was pretty good.
Yeah, yep. Who we got in the van here? Jacob, have you got a favorite? Oh, sorry, that's not Jacob. I'm looking at the wrong hat. Dan, is that you? Is that you?
What you talking, Willis?
Yep. Who's here?
I sent the kids off to breakfast.
Yes, it is breakfast time. This is quiet in here. But do you have a favorite binomial nomenclature?
What's a binomial?
A two-part name, double-barrel name.
Huh?
For a creature, a double-barreled name for a creature.
Sorry, I'm texting two different engineers, which I'm not supposed to be doing while operating the ROV, but one of them's troubleshooting some code, and the other one's troubleshooting some alarm level stuff we have. But, sorry, say that again. I'll put my phone down.
Oh, just
it's not that important.
A viewer interested in any creatures with a binomial name that you find silly, funny, or cool. So one of the examples I was using was Ornis orca, which is orcas, or gorillas, which are gorilla.
I guess Tina 4.
Tina 4? That one's
doesn't
good.
count. That's 3.
I think that one goes right in the pun category, but I like it. Tina 4?
Siphon 4.
Siphona 4, that's a good one, yeah.
Siphonophores are like the most scary creature ever to us.
Oh yeah, why's that?
They look like ropes, and we always, ropes and spinny things on an ROV don't mix too well.
That is true.
So we instantly, you see all three of us up here come to the edge of our seat every time we see one. And you can't tell a lot of times whether it's a rope indeed, which we have run afoul of, or just a siphonophore that we try and avoid because they're very fragile.
Very cool. What about you, Lynette? Anything come to mind?
I have no idea.
That's quite all right.
Okay, I'm out of here. Giving it back to Jake. I'm going to go get some bacon.
Yeah, it is breakfast time. And maybe it's a great opportunity actually to do a quick recap of some of the big science objectives for this expedition, just as folks are taking care of their needs. So some of our objectives are to deploy a lot of the equipment you see on our back deck. That is all stuff that's going to contribute to Ocean Network Canada's cabled observatory network. So some of them are going to be autonomous, some of them are going to be plugged in. Other objectives, of course, is to make sure our network is in good working order so that it's streaming that data live and in real time and good quality stuff. I think we saw some cameras on the back deck as well, so hopefully those are going to be deployed and swapped out so we can keep an eye on the sea when it's too rough to be out here. And some folks asking, are the blobs that float on by jellyfish? And I have to use the word probably jellyfish. There are a couple things that go by. Things like small fish, definitely jellies, maybe some other creatures. Pyrosomes were big a couple years ago. We found a lot of those. So Probably jellies. Could be a few other things. So Herc is on his way up to the surface, and what we're going to do is take some of those samples off, get those taken care of, get the old equipment off, and get that squared away. Then our plan is to do some um, deployments of autonomous vehicles, um, and then hopefully get a couple more dives in. Again, a great place to find that information is on our socials, Twitter, Instagram. We'll put out a dive alert, and then we've got opportunities for everybody to sign in and have a watch. Steve, I see you on the headset, so I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite binomial nomenclature name of a creature? Got a silly one or a goofy one off the top of your bean?
Vampiroteuthis.
Vampiroteuthis, and what's that?
It's I think it's Vampiroteuthis. It's a teuthis, so it's between the octopus and a squid. And I'm just going off of memory, and I'm not a biologist, but it's this guy with olive sort of purple eggplant back cape and red underneath. So that's where the vampire comes in.
Ooh, kind of Dracula type beastie.
It is. It's a fairly deep guy. So I think we accidentally caught one at about 1,000 meters once in a cod end, and the poor thing was squished in there. And of course, coming up from 1,000 meters, he wasn't very happy either. But
Ooh.
it's quite. All these. It looks like an octopus, but I think it's this teuthis. It means that it has actually 10 appendages, so eight legs, and these two ears, like the Dumbo guy, that they fly with as well. Anyway, so it's a pretty fascinating looking little creature. I think it made it a front page of some sort of major magazine too, like Scientific American, because it's kind of like the anglerfish, which is another. The name is not that good, but the fish is pretty fascinating looking. That's the one with the little light bulb that sort of hangs out in front of his head with enormous teeth. Anyways, I think that's one that came to mind.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. And thank you for letting me try the mute switch. Took me only a few minutes.
Ah, There's only about, what do you think, 28 switches in front of us?
There's, yeah, at least 28 switches.
Yeah.
Because some of them are invisible on screens that, yeah, there's about 28 on the screen in front of me.
Yep.
And of course, you know, I know how to use maybe one or two, and the rest are creating intense hassle. Oh, I think we ran through something.
Yeah, it does look like there's a bit of debris in the water there.
Some poor... basically driving this washing machine up and down the water column to... occasionally accidentally cause some... actually, maybe it's, I don't know what that is. That could be stuff off the skids. I don't know why it would come off now.
Just a question about the ROV's arms, and that's actually what you can see right in the front of kind of the main shot there. And what's happening is those arms are holding on to a CTD, which is conductivity, temperature, and depth. And we use that to take some measurements and confirm that other things were working as they should be. And so in this particular ascent, it made more sense to hold on to it with the arms on the front porch. And so that's what you're seeing there is those arms and then a couple of loops of cable as we head up towards the surface. And that kind of, I don't know, it kind of looks like a, well, it reminds me of like a slap chop type thing. On the right-hand side is our plug-in that it would plug into, and it's in a parking position, we call it.
I'm really curious how Hercules managed to roll that lime green cable up.
They did it like a person, you know, you loop it over your elbow.
So the elbow came out and the
Yeah.
other arm just did the thing. That's pretty amazing.
No. Luckily, it was still coiled when he picked it up, which is good.
It probably, so one of the big things that happens with these kind of cables is that they're not that flexible on land at 20 degrees, and then when you go down to 1.8 or whatever it was down there, it gets even less flexible. So if you went down as a slinky, it probably stayed as a slinky until you brought it back up. So everything would look all good down there, Monica?
When I came on shift, yeah, it looked pretty good. They were just doing some sediment cores. So those are on our way back up. And what else? We grabbed that CTD that we're talking about. And now we're on our way back to the surface. We saw some sea pigs. We saw some cucumbers. Lots of really good brittle stars. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Got some pretty good samples.
Maybe I'll direct this to shore to see if I can raise those guys. Have you talked to shore at all?
Have I? I have not. But
Sure, this is Steve at the logger station. Were you able to check the CTD, the deployed CTD against the reference CTD on the ROV for both the recovery and the deployment? And I'll make sure you're up somewhere here. I don't even know where shore is. Oh, here you are.
Did I grab yours? I might have grabbed yours. I might have grabbed yours.
Okay. 550 meters, huh?
No, we're just a bit heavy. They didn't want to drop weights because it's the MPA, Marine Protected Area.
Well, that's cool.
Someone's got it. Hot mic. Hot radio, hot radio. Huh? Oh, it was mic on the radio. But there's a radio that's in here.
Hey to everyone online. We're just doing a little shift switch, and we'll be back in just a few moments to take your questions.
What's your protocol for streaming now? Is it 400 meters or something? Or what speed do you start at or go at? 0.3? Yeah, Josh said something about a serious current.
Hey, question for my team up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did it feel first dive? Do you guys like have rust? Do you feel like riding a bike? How does it feel to get the first one done?
It's definitely a little bit exciting always after not doing it for a while, I'll say. But yeah, it kind of comes back like riding a bike. It's nice.
I think more like riding a skateboard.
Riding a skateboard, that's
You
more
gotta
like
get your
it.
balance back, you know?
Get your bearings.
The upgrades in here like are kind of always changing too. I don't know if that throws you guys off.
Oh yeah, we're constantly changing things around, and especially this year, there's a lot of new changes on different screens and cameras, and things. All you got to kind of like retrain your brain where to look for things, and it just takes a little bit of time.
I see someone asking online about if we keep the stream live all the way up. Yes, we do. And yeah, exactly to the question. Yeah, you can see kind of the interesting change in the biology from bottom to the top. Although it'll be a little, you get these sections of much more sparse density, right? But we should be climbing to that range pretty soon. Hey, very cool to see that we got viewers coming in from classrooms in Brazil. Thanks a lot for joining us. Don't forget that you can request ship-to-shore interactions if you want to speak to someone live on the ship through the nautiluslive.org website in the education page. So for anyone looking to have dial in directly to their classroom, that's a great way to speak to any of us here on the ship and get a little bit of a virtual tour. To the front row, you guys have a question about the weather for recovery, and I mean, it looks pretty clear to me, but I have untrained eye.
Yeah, this is pretty good weather. We have to look at three primary factors: the swell and waves, the wind, and the current at the surface. The subsurface current matters on recovery on the ascent. If we have a really stark subsurface current that's opposing what's happening at the surface, then that's going to kind of misorient our vehicles on the way up. But we have a couple means of trying to address that. But once we're at the surface, the ship and the vehicles both feel the current, but only the ship feels wind. So we can't necessarily be like broadside to wind. We also have limitations on our dynamic positioning system with a jet pump in the aft and a bow thruster by the bow. And then the swell itself is going to affect us just in deck safety kind of operations and how much snap load we put on the tether and the main 6/8 cable that goes down to Atalanta from the ship.
Are those things that you guys have like quantified out to the front, or is it more of just a you know, keeping your hands on the dial and navigating?
There is some rough quantification, obviously, with those three factors, both in force and direction, are going to kind of like, it's never going to be the same twice. So, but we do have some guidelines about what our weather windows are. And we, again, have some ways to kind of address those things. Hopefully, we address that prior to launch. We look at our launch window, and then we also look at how long the weather is supposed to be that way or better, and kind of what we anticipate seeing, like, okay, the swell's going to come up or the wind's going to come up, and we'll keep an eye on all that stuff.
I'm going to make you tell the world about this fantastic movie. Is it going to be are you going to do the scene by scene?
I mean, I could talk about it for ages. It's so good and bad.
The discussion among the science team now is among the Oscar snub, The Core.
One of the best bad science movies ever. No, it was like not an adventure movie, but
Yeah, like a apocalyptic-y sci-fi.
Yeah.
I think you might have to fight a little just to line up, but then it should stay stasis just like it is now.
Oh yeah, they're
I know it's not ideal to
they're
lose
close.
any thrust on the lats.
And since then, I've had far too many students ask if it's possible to reignite the Earth's core with nuclear power and things like this, and could we restart Mars and things like that. Not how science works, guys.
Some of my favorite parts of that are that they just sprinkle little nuggets of reality.
Yeah.
So if you're going to drill to the center of the Earth, where would you launch from? Where would you start your drilling from?
you'd think like the lowest point, right? Like you start from a trench or something like this, yeah.
And what do they do? Where do they start? Mariana's Trench.
Mariana's Trench, yeah.
Genius.
Oh, to be a science advisor in a Hollywood movie.
Yeah, good.
You could sort it in the last 50 if you want, if it's stealing too much of your vertical.
That's fine.
Okay. Loud and clear, deck.
Lima Charlie.
Amber, do you have a radio on down there by any chance?
My radio is off.
On?
Off.
Off. Oh, is that one? Yeah, thank you.
It is off.
Oh, no, it's no worries.
Oh, I'm talking to Rennie.
Just turn it down at least.
Switch to manual, handover at 50.
Okay.
Okay, we got 100, we got the bridge. Captain's maybe not there yet, I'm not sure. And we're all set up here.
So we're switching to manual at 50, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Wow.
Can we have do you guys mind if we do the dive, or sorry, the recovery salvo?
Yeah. I think we lost the Paro again.
Lost the Paro?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me check.
Butt cams still all look good.
Yeah, we lost Paro again.
Did you lose it prior in the dive?
Yeah, earlier in the dive we lost it. Lost it again. Yep.
No.
I was like, why is the delta 50 meters?
Yeah.
I did it earlier, but I'll, yeah.
Are you guys okay with recovery salvo up there?
Yeah.
Do you mind hitting that, Amber? No,
I can do
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Okay. When do I hand over?
Where's
yeah,
the CTD?
You can stop now.
Okay, I'll stop. 48 meters.
Deck control. I'll stop 50 meters.
I'll stop 50 meters. Bridge, back deck. Permission to go ahead and recover.
I have the CTD depth, so I'm
Okay.
looking at that. But, and also the butt cam. But
Bridge, back deck. Captain is coming. Alright, please let me know when the captain is on the bridge.
Yeah.
Last day of shakedown? The day before I left? That's why it looks a little shoddy, but yeah.
I like it.
Captain on the bridge. For bridge, or go for back deck.
Just need a little emblem here that's like rotates as you send it up and down. Thrusters disabled.
Bridge, back deck. Back deck, bridge. Hey, Captain, permission to go ahead and recover the ROVs. Charlie to recover ROVs.
Yep.
Captain.
You can cycle the Paro a couple times too, see if it comes back. Yeah, and I can see I got the CTD depth too, I can look at that, but.
On Luke, I have a switch. We can switch between different sensors for navigational.
Yeah. Totally.
You're bullseye now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It doesn't look like Pearl's coming back.
I'm a little bit behind. Catch up.
Van back deck. I don't have eyes yet on Hercules, but it's looking
10
like
meters.
it's heading off over to past our starboard rail.
Copy that.
10 meters down.
You know, I would disagree with saying off starboard. Just feel like it's still aft. It's just on the starboard side. There we go. You see it right to the left of the A-frame there.
Yeah. I would. That's a crossbar.
I'm going to stop mezzos. All good?
All good.
Yeah. From my perspective, it's a goal.
That's a crossbar. Easy.
Control back deck. Let me know if you guys are making headway over there. It looks like you're starting to come inboard of the starboard rail.
Roger that. Yeah, we're good.
Copies.
It's fine. What are we looking for here? What kind of perfection is he expecting? That's in the center.
Nothing.
Going aft?
I mean, yeah, it's pretty, tether's pretty
It's
tight.
tugging it.
I'll check the ADCP right after this and see what we got. It should be, but it doesn't get quite the surface. It's like a bit below. So. You don't turn the ground switch right now?
We don't need to turn the ground switch unless we're actually working on weather.
Okay.
It's got a ground on it.
You see him bring his radio up to call.
No, it's meant to safe it.
Heavy.
We're still continuing forward, by the way.
Heavy, keeps sinking. Why would the pressure rise at the surface? But at this, pressure's rising at the surface. Yeah. Now I'm basically doing nothing because they're pulling in with the crane. As it starts to come around, I'll just kind of keep the heading like basically the vehicle pointed away from the ship at all times. Who's in the crane?
Is it Al? Yeah.
And Van Deck, we have Hercules about 10 meters from the transom.
Control copies.
And Van Deck, can you have Hercules pull ahead?
Driving ahead. Strong tape. Maybe just one loop next time.
Control deck, we have Hercules passing the transom.
Copy. Heavy. You're sinking, Jake.
I got out of bypass.
Ranch.
Yeah, we do have one little dangly loop.
Deck control, just to inform you, we have something hanging off the front porch.
Copies, we have Hercules also out of the water.
Alright, I'm gonna
Copy.
shut her down. Out of
Okay.
bypass.
Yeah.
Oh, other way.
Power secure.
Copies.